So this article that we're reading today will also include a lot of metaphor. Okay, and this is what sometimes makes certain texts difficult, is that you can't take what's written on face value, or you can't take it in a literal sense. They use a lot of imagery. They compare a lot of realities with other things. They use sometimes certain things that happen in nature to compare it back to real life. So those things we have to sort of deduce from the text, right? So that's where the difficulty is that not only now are you learning the vocab and the structures, but at the same time you have to deduce what the author is trying to say. So it's not going to be, I guess it's not as simple as the previous text. However, having said that, there is still a lot of good vocabulary. So the vocabulary that he uses is so he uses simple vocabulary, but at the same time he also brings words that you wouldn't really hear on a day-to-day basis or even read, right? You will find them in more in higher reading of Arabic texts, right? And I will point those out to you as well. But this text, however, generally speaking, the vocabulary is it's manageable. There will be a lot of new words that you will come across, but once again, these are words that are frequently used in the language. Okay, and that's the whole point. That's the whole point of these classes, is to really expose you to vocab that you will constantly read, so you don't have to always look up the dictionary, right? You can call them the foundational vocabularies or vocabulary of the language. Okay, so having said that, let's start, and I'll focus more on vocab and new words in this text, rather than try to speak too much about grammar. So I'll try my best to stick to that, because I want that to be the purpose of this text. And obviously, how to read without vowels, that's also something that we will hopefully look at. Okay, so so let's start with the title, right? So this word is al-ghad. Okay, al-ghad. Al-ghad on its own means tomorrow, right? Al-ghad on its own means tomorrow. So if I say sa'ati ghadan, I will come tomorrow. Okay, so on a day-to-day basis, it's used for tomorrow. However, in this context, al-ghad refers really to the future, or what we call al-mustaqbal in Arabic. So al-ghad is the word itself means tomorrow, but in this context, it's talking about the future. It's talking about the future that we can't really see or know what will happen. Okay, so I hope you guys have at least printed out the article, or at least using it digitally to take notes. It's very important that you take notes during the class. Otherwise, just listening, you will end up most likely forgetting many of the discussions. So I hope you do that, inshallah. Okay, so as I said, al-ghad is tomorrow, but in this context, it refers to the future, and I will just give you a brief idea of what the article is about. It's basically about the fact that human beings have not figured out how to unveil the future, right? Or how to really certainly know the future or the unseen, right? And the author says that human beings have achieved great things, great inventions, and so on, but when it comes to knowing the future for certain, they crumble in front of it. Okay, so that's the whole premise of the article. Okay, so he begins with the first word, araftu, right? Araftu. So this could be read as arafta or arafti or araf. So araftu, arafta, arafti. Arafat as well. Arafat, she knew, right? But because the next word is anni and anni, and we know this is anni because the hamza is on the top, right? If the hamza was on the bottom, it becomes inni. But inni is never in the middle of a sentence, so this is definitely anni. So because it's talking about anni, then it's definitely araftu. So you just have to sort of understand it from the context. Araftu is to know, and that's a common word you're all familiar with. Araftu anni, I knew that, or I recognized that, or I'm certain that. Right? Araftu, arafa has these meanings. Araftu anni. So this is anna, which means that, and then you attach the ya to it, it means that I knew that I fakkartu. Okay? Fakkartu means I thought, to think. Right? This is form number 2. Verb form number 2. Fakkara yufakkiru, tafkir, and here he's using it for himself. Right? Araftu anni fakkartu. Once again, it could be many other pronouns, but we know that he's talking about himself. Araftu anni fakkartu laylata ams. So this is ظرف zaman. We call it an adverb of time, right? Or you can say it's a word referring to a particular time. Laylata, layla means one night, and ams means yesterday. Right? So عرفت أني فكرت ليلة أمس. One note that ams is a mabni word. Ams is a mabni word, and it always takes a kasra. Okay, so keep this in mind. The word ams, we're not going to go into why, but ams is a word that's mabni, and it always takes a kasra. Okay, so even if it's used in a, let's say, in a rafa position or in a nasab position, it will still take a kasra. Okay, it's a mabni word. Laylata is mansub, it's fatha because it's an adverb of time, right? So the dhuruf by default are or words that refer to time and place. These will be mansub. Okay, so this is ظرف زمان ومكان. Okay, عرفت أني فكرت ليلة أمس. I knew or I recognized that yesterday I thought about something. I will continue. I thought about فيما. Okay, so فيما is a combination of two words. You have fi and then you have ma. Fi means in, and ma means what? It's an ism mawsul, right? The ma is an ism mawsul. Fima together means in what? Okay, so let's see how this connects. Fima aktubu. Aktubu is a fi'l mudari, and by default fi'l mudari always take dhamma during the rafa state. Fima aktubu al-yawma. Al-yawma is once again, it means today. Okay, because it's a word that refers to time, words that refer to time will be mansub, will be in a state of nasb, so it will be al-yawma. Okay, so once more. عرفت أني فكرت ليلة أمس فيما أكتب اليوم. Easy vocabulary. So he's saying that I'm sitting here and I knew yesterday that I was thinking about what I'm going to write today. Right? So basically he's saying that yesterday I sat down and I thought about what I will write today. So he's recognizing that fact that he thought about it yesterday and now he's doing it. Right? So it came into being basically. وَعَرَفْتُ, and again, and I also knew, وَعَرَفْتُ, and I knew, أَنِّي, once again, أَنِّي, and from here onwards is the maf'ul bihi for the verb, عَرَفْتُ, right? This is the masdar mu'awwal, or you can, or a dependent clause. So this whole thing will be the maf'ul bihi for عَرَفْتُ, for the object. And it continues, وَعَرَفْتُ أَنِّي, and I knew that I آخذ الساعة. آخذ is the ism fa'il. So the word آخذ is the ism fa'il of the thulathi mujarrad verb أخذ يأخذ. أخذ يأخذ. This is like, you know, when you say, so the pattern for an ism fa'il for the thulathi mujarrad, what's the pattern? Can someone remind us? What is the pattern for an ism fa'il? So it's literally fa'il, isn't it? So the actual pattern, the wazn, is fa'il. So this is the wazn for, this is the wazn for an ism fa'il. So ism fa'il is the one who does the verb, right? Is the one who's doing it. Now, generally speaking, a lot of verbs, thulathi mujarrad verbs, will fall in this category. So you have kataba yaktubu, katib, writer, right? Sami'a yasma'u, sami', the one who hears. Sa'iq, saqa yasuqu, sa'iq is the one who drives, right? However, with this one, akhadha ya'khudu, if you do it based on the wazn, it becomes it becomes akhir, right? Because it has a hamza in the beginning. So akhir. But usually we don't like to put a hamza and an alif next to each other. So the rule is that when that happens, it takes a mad sign. So it becomes akhir. So akhir is an ism fa'il for akhadha ya'khudu. Akhadha ya'khudu means to take. Akhir is the one who takes. Okay, akhir is the one who takes. So he says here, وَعَرَفْتُ أَنِّي آخِذٌ السَّاعَةَ بِقَلَمِي. So he's saying, and I knew that I took as-sa'ata here. This is a little bit confusing, but here it really means at this hour. Okay? And the thing with Arabic is that you can use a word that refers to a time, and it means that you're in it right now. Like, for example, if I say, I could say, akulu sabahan, right? Akulu sabahan. Literally, it says, I eat morning, right? In other words, I eat during the morning. You could say, sa'usalli masa'an. I will pray during the evening time. You can say, akulu as-sa'a. You might think it means that I'm eating the time, right? That's how it sounds like. Fi'l fa'il maf'ul bihi. Akulu as-sa'a. But it actually means I'm eating, in other words, at this hour, at this moment. This is what as-sa'a refers to here. So in Arabic, you can do that. You can use a word that refers to time, and just by using the word, you can say it's happening during that time. I guess I hope that was clear. وَعَرَفْتُ أَنِّي آخِذٌ السَّاعَةَ, and I knew that I am taking at this moment بِقَلَمِي. We know qalam means pen. بِقَلَمِي is with my pen or through my pen. And I will come to the full sentence very soon. بَيْنَ means between, and you know that by now. أَنَامِل. So this is a new word. أَنَامِل means fingertips. أَنَامِل means fingertips. And if you want the singular, it's أُنْمُلَ. أُنْمُلَ is one fingertip, and أَنَامِل is fingertips. It's the jama of أُنْمُلَ. بَيْنَ أَنَامِلِ. Okay, so up to here, what do we understand? We say, so he's saying that, and I knew that, that I am right now at this moment holding a pen between my fingertips. Because the point that he's trying to make here is that he planned it and it happened, right? He's planning and it's happening. So he planned it basically, and it's happening. So anamil, as I said, is a jama of unmula. وَأَنَّ بَيْنَ يَدَيَّ. We know anna is a sister of inna, right? So its ism will be mansub and its khabar will be marfu'. وَأَنَّ بَيْنَ يَدَيَّ, and that between my two hands, بَيْنَ يَدَيَّ. بَيْنَ يَدَيَّ is a very common expression in Arabic. It's used a lot in the Quran and the prophetic traditions as well. Like for example, what was the verse? It was in my mind, but it escaped me. النصر بيد الله. Like usually we say, I forgot the verse, but basically the way it's used in the Quran and in the prophetic traditions is, we say, for example, سَنَقِفُ بَيْنَ يَدَيِ اللَّهِ فِي الْآخِرَةِ, for example. We will stand, so this is the literal meaning, we will stand in between the hands of Allah in the Akhirah. So بَيْنَ يَدَيِ has two connotations. So if I say الْكِتَابُ بَيْنَ يَدَيَّ, it means that the book is in front of me. Okay, the book is in front of me. يعني الْكِتَابُ أَمَامي. So when we say بَيْنَ يَدَيَّ, between my hands, that's, you're not using the literal meaning here. You're saying that the book is in front of me. Or بَيْنَ يَدَيَّ also has an idea of hukum in it as well, some sort of power. Okay, so when we say al-quwwatu biyadillah, right, that the power is within Allah's control. But we say bayna yadayillah because this is an expression in Arabic. When you say bayna yadayhi, you mean that it's under his control. Okay, so it either means in front of you, or it also means that you have control and power over it. Okay, so you can write this together somewhere and put the meanings as in front of / having control or power over. Okay. If I remember the verse, I'll let you guys know. Okay, وَأَنَّ بَيْنَ يَدَيَّ, and that between my two hands is صَحِيفَةً بَيْضَاء. So this is the ism of anna. It's coming later, right? So really what he's saying, وَأَنَّ صَحِيفَةً بَيْضَاءَ بَيْنَ يَدَيَّ. And how did I know this is the ism of anna? Because adverbs or ظروف زمان or makan, they can never be the ism. Just like a prepositional phrase can never be the ism. Okay, so the prepositional phrase can never be an ism, and also the adverbs of time or place, like bayna, khalfa, amama, these things are always khabars. They're always information. So when you're reading without vowels, you have to know these things to read properly, right? وَأَنَّ بَيْنَ يَدَيَّ صَحِيفَةً بَيْضَاء, and between my two hands is a white page or paper. Right, so sahifa here can refer to a page or a paper. So sahifa is also used as a newspaper, but really sahifa means just a sheet of paper. Okay. Sahifatan bayda, and the plural of sahifa is suhuf, which means like scrolls or sheets. In Suratul A'la, it says Suhufi Ibrahima wa Musa. Right, I think it's towards the end or the last verse, which means the scrolls of Ibrahim and Musa. Sahifatan bayda means white. It's the feminine form of abyad. Okay, so far he's saying that I knew that last night, I was thinking about what I'm going to write today. And I knew that I will take the pen at this moment between my fingertips, and that between my hands or in front of me is a white sheet. Sahifatan bayda, yeah, it's mawsuf sifa, yeah. So bayda is غير منصرف, right? It doesn't take tanween, but it's mawsuf sifa, yeah. So, and then it continues, taswaddu qalilan qalila. Okay, this verb taswaddu is actually form number 9. Now, for those who've done the higher subject, you will know form number 9, but we don't cover this in the intermediate Arabic grammar 1. The form number 9 because it's not that common, is iswadda, and it's usually used for colors. Iswadda yaswaddu means sara aswad, it became black. Okay, and this is used in the Quran. I think something like وَيَوْمَئِذٍ تَسْوَدُّ وُجُوهٌ وَتَبْيَضُّ وُجُوهٌ. You know, on that day where faces will become black, or some faces will become black and some faces will become white. Right? So in other words, some people will be punished and some will be given glad tidings. So this is a verb. Taswaddu means to turn black or to become black. Or sara aswad, right? It became black. Taswaddu qalilan qalila. What do you guys think is becoming black little by little? It's feminine form of the verb taswaddu. So what is it referring to? What's feminine in this context? It's a hal, but what is it referring to? Where is a sahibul hal?
The text.
It's the paper, isn't it? That sheet, the sahifa, right? The sahifa is turning black. In other words, he's writing, right? So his pen is black, or if you look at the page, and if you write in black pen, it ends up becoming more black and more black as you keep writing and as you fill out. Is that the default form, turning black? If you mean the verb, the verb itself, that's the default form, yeah. Iswadda yaswaddu. Yeah. Like you can say ihmarra yahmarru. Ihmarra wajhu means his face became red. Right? Ihmarra wajhuhu means his face became red. So taswaddu qalilan qalila. It's becoming black little by little. When? How? Kullama. So this combination of word really has only have one way of saying it. Kullama. Kullama means every time. Right? Kullama means every time. Kullama ajraytu. 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 A very, very common verb, which means, number 3, jara yajri, or number 4 actually. So jara yajri means to like, to start. It's basically there's an action and then you're doing that action. That means ajraytu, right? It could mean run. It could mean it just really depends on the context of the action. A word, no, it's not referred to ajr. That's a bit different. Ajraytu can also mean run. Jara yajri, but it means usually to start something, right? Ajraytu al-qalama means I started the pen. In other words, I began writing, right? Kullama ajraytu al-qalama fiha, in it. So every time I took the pen and I started writing on it. So that's the meaning. So literally, ajraytu al-qalama means I ran the pen, or I controlled the pen, or I began the pen. In other words, I began writing with the pen. Okay, ajraytu al-qalama fiha. So, okay, and then he continues, walakinni, however I. Okay, once again, when you see this, right, this word, there's really one way of reading it. Walakinni. Okay, walakinni. And the context is very clear that he's still talking about himself. And however I, walakinni, la a'lamu. Right? And this is a very common verb. A'lamu. Alima ya'lamu is to know. However, I do not know. La a'lamu. Hal yablughu. Hal is like is or are and so on. Balagha yablughu, a common verb, means to reach. Okay? Means to reach somewhere, to reach a point. Balagha yablughu. If I say balaghtu suq, it means I reached the market. Right? And for example, in fiqh terms, in jurisprudence, when you say bulugh, it means someone has reached puberty age. So literally, bulugh means it's the masdar of balagha yablughu, means to reach, right? So they take the word and then they use it for all sorts of contexts. And sometimes they say, for example, baligh, someone who has reached the ism fa'il, right? Usually when you read in the conditions of fiqh, they will say, like, who can lead the prayer, for example. They will say the person has to be baligh. In other words, they have to reach the mature age, right? They need to be of a mature age. So balagha yablughu means to reach somewhere or to attain a certain target. ولكني, however, I لا أعلم, do not know, هل يبلغ القلم. Okay, this is the فاعل. هل يبلغ القلم مداه. مداه is a new word. The actual word is المدى. Which means its purpose, right? Its objective. The actual word is mada, right? But it means nihayatu, aw ghayatu, its purpose, its objective. He says, وَلَكِنِّي لَا أَعْلَمُ, however, I do not know. هَلْ يَبْلُغُ الْقَلَمُ مَدَى, right? Will the pen reach its target? Will the pen reach its objective? And what is the objective of the pen? Right? So in other words, he's saying, I meant to write something, will I complete finishing it? Right? Will the pen that I'm using, and I'm using the pen to perhaps write an idea or an article, whatever it is, will I be able to complete it? So here he's using, once again, metaphorical language, saying, will the pen reach its purpose? Right? هل يبلغ القلم مداه? Will the pen reach its purpose? And madah, who refers to the pen, its purpose, its objective. أو, or يكبو. Okay, this is a new word as well. كبا يكبو means to fall on one's face. Okay, so it's not just a normal falling. It's literally to fall frontwise, like, I think there's an expression for it in English. He fell in front of his face or something like that, I think.
Topple down.
What's that?
Topple down. Fall forward.
Yeah, it's more forward falling down. That's right. And in the Quran it says, أَمَّن يَمْشِي مُكِبًّا عَلَى وَجْهِهِ. Face, yeah, I think face plant or something like that, I recall. So when the Quran says أَمَّن يَمْشِي مُكِبًّا, and مُكِبًّا is the ism fa'il here, مُكِبًّا عَلَى وَجْهِهِ أَهْدَى أَمَّن يَمْشِي سَوِيًّا عَلَى صِرَاطٍ مُسْتَقِيمٍ. So the Quran is saying, is the one who is walking, مُكِبًّا عَلَى وَجْهِهِ, walking, but then as if he is falling flat on his face on the floor. Is someone like that similar? أَمَّن يَمْشِي سَوِيًّا عَلَى صِرَاطٍ مُسْتَقِيمٍ. Or is someone who is walking straight on a straight path, sawiyan, salim, without, he knows his direction, he's on a straight path. So this idea of mukibban ala wajhihi is, it's not just falling, but it's falling face down. Okay, falling face down, falling on the face. So he's using obviously very strong language here. So will the pen reach its objective, or أو يكبو دون غايته? Duna means without. Duna means without. Let's say I can say ataytu biduni or duna sadiqi. I came without my friend. So here you can say أو يكبو دون غايته. And غاية, we said before, means the objective or the goal. Okay, غاية also means the goal. غايته is its goal. So he's saying here, will the pen reach its objective or fall face down without its purpose or without reaching its goal? Is that clear, everyone, so far?
Yes.
Yeah? Okay. And then he continues and he says, وَهَلْ أَسْتَطِيعُ, a very common verb. استطاع يستطيع means be able to. أستطيع means I am able to. And you know that the default of the fi'l mudari is the rafa state, right? So all of these fi'l mudaris take a dhamma at the end. فكرت, عرفت, أكتب, تسود, لا أعلم, هل يبلغ أو يكبو. Right? The fi'l mudari by default is always marfu. So that's why we keep dhammas at the end. وهل أستطيع, form number 10, correct? استطاع يستطيع. There's a bit of irregularity in it as well. وهل أستطيع, and can I, أستطيع أن أتمم Now here this fi'l mudari is mansub because of an. Which form do you think this belongs to? أتمم. أتمم.
Five.
Five.
No,
It's
five.
a bit short for 5. Because 5 is تقبل يتقبل, and then the mudari is also actually begins with a fatha. تقبل يتقبل. If I say I accept, it becomes أتقبل. Form number 7. Form number 7 should have a noon, so there's no noon here. In fatara, so the noon is part of the pattern, so it can't be form number 7. Form number 8, it's a bit short for form number 8. It's form number 4. Atamma, yutimmu, that will become utimmu. So this is form number 2. I think someone said form number 2. Yeah, sorry guys. So this is form number 2. Tammama, yutammimu, utammimu. I complete. It means to complete. Okay. Because there's a shadda there, there's a level of irregularity. It's not always as straightforward as the other verbs. But this is form number 2. Tammama, yutammimu, and then utammimu, which means to complete. وهل أستطيع أن أتمم, and can I complete رسالتي هذه. رسالة means letter. رسالتي means my letter. رسالتي هذه means this letter of mine. Okay, so that's how you would say it in English. If I say كتابي هذا, means this book of mine. But if I say هذا كتابي, that's a jumla ismiya, which means this is my book. But if I say كتابي هذا, this book of mine. Okay, this book of mine. وهل أستطيع أن أتمم رسالتي هذه? And will I be able to complete this letter of mine? أو, or يعترض. Which form do you think this belongs to? This should be more straightforward. يعترض. So Irfan says form 8. What do the rest think? Form number 4. Form number 4's mudari is with the dhamma, so it can't be form number 4. Because the mudari here is يعترض with the fatha. Yeah, so it's form number 8, right? اعترض يعترض, اجتنب يجتنب. So then you know that the vowelling is يعترض, just like يجتنب. So the patterns here are very important too. Remember. And as I said, the more we do it, the more we do it, the more we do it, it will eventually become more clearer and more easy to figure out. أو يعترض. Now, اعترض يعترض means to block. To block something, or to become an obstacle. Okay. أو يعترض عارض من عوارض الدهر. Okay. So يعترض means to block something. It also means to protest, against something. If you listen to the news in Arabic, they will say قال المعارضون, right? So those who oppose said. And also in politics, the opposition of the current government is called mu'arid, right? So that means like an opposition and so on. But the form number 8 generally refers to stand up against, or to block, or to stop something from happening. Okay, يعترض means he is blocking. But here we have a fa'il, we have عارض. عارض is an ism fa'il from the same verb, which means an obstacle. Okay, عارض means an obstacle. So what he's saying here is an obstacle is blocking. Yes, I'm giving a very literal translation first. يعترض عارض. An obstacle is blocking. And what is this obstacle? عارض من عوارض الدهر. عوارض means obstacles. عارض means it's a singular form, obstacle. And then here, عوارض الدهر. Dahar means time. It's another word for time. The Quran uses this as well. هل أتى على الإنسان حين من الدهر. Has there come a moment of time, basically a thought or a consideration at any given time to the human being. And then the verse continues. So عوارض الدهر is a common thing in Arabic, basically referring to the obstacles in life. The things that come in life which are unexpected and uncounted for. So what is the best way? What do you guys think the best way to express this in English would be? يعترض عارض من عوارض الدهر. The literal translation would be or an obstacle from the obstacles of time blocks or stops. Basically stops in its path. في سبيلهم. In the path of writing. Is there a better way of expressing that? What could be a عارض الدهر? What could be an obstacle of time? What are some of the obstacles in life? Time could be limited. Yeah, it could be age, right? It could be health. It could be lifespan. It could be perhaps he potentially could get sick. Maybe his work will get into his way of writing, right? Maybe he will pass away, right? It could be death as well. So عارض من عوارض الدهر. So عوارض الدهر, it's good to note that it refers to anything, any obstacle that life brings in front of you, right? So the obstacles of time. So that's the meaning, and it really could be anything, right? In other words, you could plan to write something, you could plan to find a job, or you plan to get married, you plan to travel. Like so many of us had travel plans for 2020, and coronavirus is عوارض الدهر. It's عارض من عوارض الدهر. It's an obstacle of the obstacles of time or life. Something that we could never predict in the future, right? So it could be anything, right? Anything that life sometimes presents itself to us, and it stops us from doing what we had planned. أو يعترض عارض من عوارض الدهر في سبيلها. Right? Sabil means path. This is once again used frequently in the Quran. قل أدعو إلى سبيل ربي. Say, I am inviting to the path of my Lord. Right? So sabil means a pathway. Okay, so I'll start from here again. وهل أستطيع. And am I able to complete? Right? If you want to use the to here for and, you can say, am I able to complete? Or you can say, and can I complete this letter of mine? Or something in life, something unexpected in life will will block its path, or will come in front of its path, in the path of this letter, right? Completing this letter. Why is he saying all this? لِأَنِّي. What does لِأَنَّ mean again? We've covered this in the earlier lessons, the earlier units. لِأَنَّ. لِأَنَّ means because, isn't it? لِأَنَّ means because. لِأَنِّي, because I. Okay? لِأَنِّي, because I. لَا أَعْرِفُ. لَا أَعْرِفُ, because I do not know. Min. شؤون. شؤون is the jama of sha'n. شؤون. شؤون is the jama of sha'n. Anyone knows what sha'n means? You may have come across it before. Sha'n. No? Has anyone come across the word sha'n before?
Anything?
It could be like anything, like a matter, like a thing. Right? لا أعرف من شؤون. And sha'n is can also mean, so sha'n is like an amr. We say a matter, affair of life, affairs of the world. Sha'n can also mean something very loosely, like wish. If I say هذا شأني, means this is my wish. I can do whatever I want. So it has both meanings, but in this context, it refers to a matter or affair. Because I do not know I do not know, you can say, of the affairs of tomorrow, I think sounds better, although mean usually means from. But I think here we can say of. Because I do not know of the affairs of tomorrow anything, shay'a. Right? Or you can say, I know nothing about the affairs of tomorrow, or affairs of the future. Or you can say, I know nothing about the future. Right? وَلِأَنَّ الْمُسْتَقْبَلَ بِيَدِ اللَّهِ. And because the future, al-mustaqbal here is, the future, بِيَدِ اللَّهِ is in Allah's hand. Right? Is in God's hand. That's a question. Yes, Veronica? تفضلي.
Shukran, Suhail. I just wanted to ask for the li'anani, before we get too far. Do we add all, because it can be with walakin as well, if I'm using a similar connector, would it be, so do I always have to relate it to the pronoun, what it relates to? It makes sense. Like, can I just say li'ana, la arif? Or do I have to say li'anani, la arif, because I know it's relating to the first person singular?
Yeah,
Does it make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. You have to use the pronoun.
Okay.
I know what you mean, because the pronouns already mentioned here, right? La a'rifu.
Yeah.
Yeah, but to say li'anna la a'rifu, that would be incorrect.
Okay, and would it be the same with similar connectors as well? Like walakin, walakinni, la arif.
With walakin, you can say walakin.
Uh-huh.
You can say walakin la a'rif. That's completely fine.
Mm-hmm.
Or you can say walakinni. That gives it an extra level of, I guess, strength in how you convey the language.
Mm-hmm.
So it's completely fine to say walakin la a'rif. There's no problems in that.
Okay. And when we're using the sisters Anna as well, would it be Anni or can I just say An again?
No, so with an, you have to always use the pronoun.
Oh, yes, you do. Okay.
Yeah. So with an, you will never see li'an or
Yeah.
li'anna to express because. It always comes with a pronoun.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much for the explanation.
No worries. And وَلِأَنَّ, and because the future, al-mustaqbala, like here li'anna is used because there's no pronoun, right? So I hope that was clear. So li'anna, you can use li'anna as long as there's no pronoun afterwards. But if it's talking about somebody, then the pronoun is reflected in li'anna. وَلِأَنَّ الْمُسْتَقْبَلَ, and because the future is in the hands of Allah, right? So this is not a question in the sense that, when you ask a question, it's not always because you don't know about something. If someone does something surprising and then you say, he actually did that, like you know he did it, and you're asking the question not because you want to confirm, but because you're actually surprised that someone did that. Okay, so that's istifham bi ta'ajjub. So there are questions for different intentions, right? So here he's just confirming it. He's basically saying, I'm helpless. Well, he's like, how can I know anything? Because the future is in the hands of Allah. Like, that's something very, very obvious. So how did you guys feel about that passage? Was it too heavy, the paragraph? Okay, I hope that it was made easy. So as I said, the moment we start talking about metaphors and so on, it actually becomes a layer more difficult, only because you have to look deeper beyond the face value of the words. Okay, and you have to start doing this because the more advanced texts, and also for those who are interested in reading Quran and Hadith, language is very, very dynamic, and I keep saying this. And the higher texts use a lot of metaphor like this. Okay, so it's important to get used to it. It does. I feel like it is heavy. I have to admit that the text is heavy, but we have to start somewhere, right? So I don't know, difficult when you don't know what to look for. Yeah. So you will have to think very hard to get harakat right regarding fa'il and fi'al, maf'ul bihi, etc. Yeah, so that comes down to your knowledge of sarf. So your knowledge of sarf needs to be strong. And this is like a practical application of it, right? So the more, once again, I keep repeating this, the more you read, the more you do it, the more you're likely to pick it up as a routine and a habit, inshallah. Can you please repeat the passage again? You mean the meaning, or you want me to just read the Arabic? I'm guessing that's Ghulam. Ghulam, is that you? Shan Haq? Read.
Yes, Ustad. This is Ghulam. Sorry. Could you please repeat just the Arabic, Ustad? Like just those vowels needs to be confirmed. Just nothing else.
Okay, no worries. Okay, so from the beginning, عرفت أني فكرت ليلة أمس فيما أكتب اليوم، وعرفت أني آخذ الساعة بقلمي بين أناملي وأن بين يدي صحيفة بيضاء تسود قليلا قليلا كلما أجريت القلم فيها ولكني لا أعلم هل يبلغ القلم مداه أو يكبو دون غايته وهل أستطيع أن أتمم رسالتي هذه أو يعترض عارض من عوارض الدهر في سبيلها لأني لا أعرف من شؤون الغد شيئا ولأن المستقبل بيد الله. Okay. I forgot to mention another point that I wanted to mention, and that is that most likely you will not get 100% when we read texts. Okay, when we read texts, most likely you will not get 100%. The intention is never to get to 100% anyway. Okay, the intention is that if you were 40%, now you became 43%. If you were 60%, now you became 65%. That's the whole intention. So let's say if you're not sure about something, don't worry about it. Just skip it through. Maybe it's not the right time now. Maybe later on it will make sense. But try to pick up on what you know, and if you learn something new, take a note of it. Okay, you know, the vowels or, you know, the meanings or whatever it is. But no one is aiming for 100%. Okay. So in terms of how did you guys feel about the non-vowel text? Like, were you comfortable with how the vowels were placed? Were you did you pick some of the words without the vowels that you knew? If you guys can just give some feedback, that will be nice to listen to.
Yes, I did, but not
Yeah.
all. A few.
Not all of you, okay. Sentence structure, مفعول به. You're surprised, okay, that's good. On your own, you were struggling, yeah, that's completely fine as well. So, for example, there are a few words that that we're familiar with. I usually say these words we know them before we're even born, in a sense that they occur so much in the language that you pick it up. Like, for example, qalam. Qalam, al-qalam, it's a vocab that you learn from the beginning and we constantly use it. Hal, this is a question word. Hal is always hal, never changes. For example, aw, aw never changes. It's always or. Ams, for example, ams, this means yesterday. So that spelling is always quite stagnant, like it doesn't change. The new verbs and their forms, more than 50%. Some was tricky, but a lot. Okay, that's good. Yeah. So this passage, I don't think the problem was too much in the individual words, but I think it was trying to make sense of it overall. Context metaphor is hard. Yeah. That's I guess that's where the training is heading towards. So you have an unvowel text. You kind of sort of have to know the context and deduce it, and then that context makes the following passages a little bit easier, because then, especially with the verbs, you kind of know who the person is talking about, right? Okay, so I'll keep the next passage for next week, inshallah. But are you guys excited to finish the chapter? It's a short chapter. So I hope it wasn't too overwhelming. But as I said, we have to start somewhere, and I think this is a good place to start because it's like you can say the highest level of Arabic, and you get a taste of the the very high standards of Arabic, and also we apply what we know, and you can see, and you can already see what you know. It's so applicable because it's foundational knowledge, right? Like there's so much we can talk about what you've already covered. Okay. All right. So we'll stop here, inshallah. And so if you have time, try to sort of at least read, maybe a passage or two passages if you can. Just try your best, put the voweling, see the words that you know and the words that you don't know. And then when you come to the class, it just makes it a bit more easier. And also you sort of know where you're lacking. But obviously, this is not part of your official studies, so I don't want this to affect your other studies. But if you can, it will be very beneficial for you personally. All right, excellent, guys. Well, I guess have a good weekend, and I'll see you guys next week.